It makes way more sense to her. So she really like.
We'll practice very together.
Yeah.
This is Amy. She is,
That's a good find.
my
Yeah.
senior director of emergency
Just
management in Florida.
And now it's just, it's also.
And she joined us for 90 days in November. So
Good
she's
skill set.
relatively new in college.
The
but she's
funny thing
been
is
over here. 12 years.
Yeah, so she and I are both really into the military and
Okay.
aviation in particular for her, because she works. in-
Thank you, that's my
She flies up to like papers and.
That's Scarborough.
She goes to go to the museum, there's a big sign on the door, they only posted it on the website the day.
Pretty
before.
much, yeah.
She ended up there with a friend of hers to go and do a whole tour and she's really into Cold War, like.
Yeah.
aircraft. And she did closed for exercise. The whole facility was closed for I think a tabletop exercise.
It's quite a rumor.
And she just- They wouldn't let that go. She didn't get in, they were like, no, she.
Yeah.
Thanks, Kathy, thank you, Kathy's low. So you can keep us on mute for now, Kathy.
Outstanding.
How was it? It was okay.
It went well. I mean, it's practice.
Look at you, like me, I dressed up like this morning.
He was.
Didn't see you.
I was there.
I know you were.
Gotta keep one of those.
I actually just saw it again. the other
How about you,
night.
man?
Did it.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
I got round two
How are you?
on Valentine's Day, so I'm gonna wait for that.
How was the? I just wanted to go back to your guys'.
So it was good. You said it was an off year, not being evaluated, so,
Did we have two people there?
yes, yeah, Charlie and.
Glad you could make it.
I didn't catch the name of the.
Yeah, Charlie Stephen.
Oh,
That's why it replaced with them.
okay, that's why Charlie didn't take the lead. She was
Yes.
kind of behind it, so.
Yeah, she leads the.
Well, I haven't taken my deal.
Oh,
Sure.
No.
Yeah, I know.
Just rotating out or?
Random picture of me.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
they rotate too fast.
Every single day.
Yeah, it seems
Sending
that
a picture of me waving.
the commanders,
Sure, I got my ring.
that's why 10 years to 11 years as a. Yeah.
Every 2 to 3 years.
So
And they
I
get
think
picked
we're
up for
gonna have
school
to
every
have
2
formal
years.
agreement.
And then if they don't like Miami, they're sending it out here.
Who's gonna pass up a gavel?
So hopefully the new, was it
Kathy, where do we keep the gavel?
Beer?
Female, blonde, if
We'll do it
I
next
didn't catch
time.
your name, I was playing those controllers, so I was just.
I think she should be here.
Yeah, right?
Oh, okay.
You kind of a light better in the ocean.
Hopefully.
Really?
The.
Nice,
Kids wide or some exercise, a day or so, so she could get.
Good working off my whole year.
Exercises down before Charlie leaves.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so I'll let you know what's the schedule. I think, no, it went well, but we used it as a,
Yeah.
you know, a training opportunity for the new work.
That's what we use ours for.
What are you gonna have, the red? Oh.
So it did well.
Coming back or?
Ours was all- It was, it went well, but, you know, a lot of things that we could work.
Yeah, man, so-
Here's what- that's the first.
Perfect. All of ours have a black
I
background.
think we also have the same with, and I think they're.
It's been both doors.
Yeah. I was up there. It was still last week.
Still now.
So I was in.
Sharon, like, Sharon,
Throw it at somebody who's like.
I was in the.
we're good to go now. You have the
Well,
safety device.
See you right in the.
Yeah. Are we ready?
Yes, sir.
Here we go.
Nice.
Linda likes it.
Got my attention. There you go, you saw the innovation.
Gavel.
So,
check.
good morning, everyone. Again, I'm Isabel Fisio Carballo, I'm the Executive Director of the Regional Planning Council, and it's just a joy to have you all back here with us in person and virtually. And, just want to wish you a great meeting, and if you need anything, please let us know, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, welcome, everybody. It is always nice, as Isabel stated, that you guys are here. So with the post-COVID reality still among us, I think one thing that was positive was inheriting the ability to do the hybrid meetings. But in my personal opinion, I always like to see everybody and interact. Sometimes you have little networking opportunities after the meeting, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm glad to see that you guys are all here. So let's go ahead and get started and do the pledge. Stand up and do the pledge, and I'll make a little announcement. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Do a moment of silence for the sick and suffering, and also for the military and our first responders throughout the country and around the world. Okay. All right. So I do want to make an announcement because you might be wondering, why I have Lieutenant Brown, Vice Chair over here, will be conducting the meeting today. So if you don't know, my role at the fire department has changed a little bit. I am currently, since December, the acting fire chief. So that keeps me a little bit busier than my already full schedule. So the biggest change I think now I say is I was busy before, but now I'm double booked for everything. So in effort to not be managing by crisis, what we did was we started to include Lieutenant Brown and some more of the high-level planning, the agenda. He actually did the agenda meeting, because quite frankly, I didn't think I was gonna be here today. So, we're gonna exercise a little mentorship opportunity and, let's not be too tough on him. I'm sure he'll do just fine. But, anyway, low stakes here today, buddy, low
Absolutely.
stakes.
Substitute teacher. Here we go.
So that's why, Brian's gonna be, conducting the meeting and, I'm sure I can interject for a couple of the items as
Yeah,
well.
trust me,
So
we'll
I'll
be
pass the
calling
gavel
on
to you. Now you got all the power.
Nice. Now we're talking. All right, good morning, everybody. All right, welcome back. So roll call. All right, I'll start. I'm Brian Brown, your LEPC Vice Chair, Hollywood Fire. We've been already introduced Chief Russo, Acting Fire Chief. Congratulations, Chief. Our chair, and we'll go around.
Lambo, Lieutenant from Hialeah Fire Department.
Georgie with Department of Environmental Protection, Office of Emergency Response.
Natasha Stroken Memorial Healthcare System, RDSTF Health and Medical.
Laura Winus, Emergency Management Specialist, Sector Miami with the Coast Guard. Sharon Burke, LEPC Coordinator.
Good morning, everyone. Clean Cities Director, South Florida Regional Planning Council.
Morning, Terry Hodges, Broward County Office of Emergency Management.
Mark Moore, Broward College.
Amy Hernandez, Director of Emergency Management at Broward College.
Good morning, everyone. Dan Scarborough, Miami-Dade County Emergency Management.
Eduardo Koenig with Environmental Permitting Department of Broward County.
Gabriel Zahora, Battalion Chief in Florida and EM Chair for the LEPC.
Adam Rollinger, Florida Department of Transportation, District 6.
And our online members. Maybe put a few.
That's some participation.
Holloway? Can you hear us? We're doing roll call for the people online.
Yeah, we can. Can you hear us?
Good morning.
Congratulations up there, Chief.
Oh, that's why. Somebody turned off the speaker.
Like, that's why.
Technical difficulties on our end.
There's your.
Okay, and then, I don't know if we want to go to, is it Ali?
Yes, Ali Yunus, Broward County Environmental Permitting Division.
Perfect. Thank you for being here.
Thank
Shannon?
you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Shannon. I'm a technical writer assisting Ms. Burke with the Hazardous Material Emergency Response Plan.
Awesome. Thank you for being here, Shannon. And is it Miss Holloway? Holloway?
Yes, good morning. I'm Raysone Holloway with the Broward County Office of Emergency Management.
Thank you for being here. Next, of course, Richard?
Yeah, Rick Whitehurst with Baptist Health, South Florida, Environmental Health and Safety and Emergency Management.
Thank you. Jalen?
Hey guys, Jalen Martier, South Florida Water Management District.
Awesome. Thank you. And Miss Didi?
Yes, Dee Williams with Gordon Food Service and working with Devon for Safety Coordinator.
Perfect. Thank you. Next, Miss Tatiana?
Hi, good morning, everybody. Tatiana Riesco, Training and Exercise Coordinator for Broward Emergency Management.
Thank you. And then David? I don't know, Mr. Reynolds, if you're trying to speak, we can't hear you. All right, I'm gonna go to the next person. Kelly? Miss Kelly? Go to the next one. Rudy? For some reason, Rudy, I can't hear you, but I see you. I see you're trying to speak.
We'll check the chat. We can check the chat as well. We see you though. Thanks.
Thank you, Rudy. And then, Keith? Weston?
Good morning. Miami-Dade County Risk Management and Safety.
Perfect. And then I'm gonna try, David, I don't know, I see you unmuted. I don't know if you want to try speaking.
We've had some sound
I was gonna say,
difficulties.
it's okay, David. I see that you're trying, but we see that you're there. And then, Kelly Gibbs. And I can't see the last name all. Okay, well,
We see.
all right, that's everyone on the call. Thank you, everyone.
And remember, for our online members, feel free to use the chat function, and I'm sure the girls will get you in.
Yeah, we can follow it.
All right, next on the agenda, we're gonna be, let's look for an approval of the minutes from the November 15th meeting. Do we have a motion for minutes approval? Somebody,
For minutes approval?
and do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? All right, motion by Rebecca George, second by Lieutenant Lambo from Hialeah. And none of all opposed, motion carried.
Because he's exercising all his power. Don't abuse it, Ryan. Don't abuse all your
That
power.
was just a test strike. We're gonna give.
So fast, I didn't even get to scroll down to the minutes, so there you go.
Right, we have some updated to the membership changes. I'm gonna let you guys look at item number 5 in your agenda packet. If any adjustments need to be made, please refer to Ms. Burke and she'll help you get the roster correct. If you guys are switching up alternates or member, please work with the coordinator and we'll get the roster squared away. I mean, she's been putting a lot of effort into getting everybody up to date lately. Number 6, item number 6, Ms. Shannon, we are actually gonna bump you down just a little bit till later on in the meeting. That way we can give you our undivided attention for all the work that you've been putting in for us. Thank you.
Thank you. Sounds good.
All right, so the chair's report. So the last CERC, right? Obviously we went up to Daytona for the Hazmat Symposium, the CERC, the LEPC meetings. I think it was a big success. There's some CERC updates. Some of the things we met with the training task force. Chief Oscar Rodriguez isn't able to be here with us today. He is our training task force representative for our LEPC. So he actually received the Yatavi Award on behalf of our LEPC. So that was interesting, right? He continues his work with the lithium ion battery initiative, including a state survey. They were recognized, including Chief Russo, for their efforts at the lithium ion symposium, the state fire marshal's office in Ocala. There's also ongoing efforts with the PFAS and the Florida Fire Department disposal. For example, your Hollywood firefighters are ongoing with switching over their firefighting foam, getting rid of some of that PFAS elements and switching over to a fluorine-free component. So there's everything from firefighter bunker gear to hazardous waste chemicals to firefighting equipment. So there's a big push to eliminate some of that PFAS from our environment. The offshore hazmat pilot program is still ongoing. I think the last LEPC, the next rendition is going to be North Florida. Jacksonville is going to be running their program. So we had a big participation when it was over here. We had a lot of success, and now they're going to run another trial in North Florida, take some of those tips and tricks and tools that we learned from our experience here, and they're going to run it back one more time and see if they can improve on it even more.
Well, to be clear, the way that this will be the final pilot, it's actually going to be run at Resolve here in the port, just because it's set up. We've done a couple of the pilots, and we'll also support it with the local TRT teams. And with our relationship with Resolve and Chauncey, it really makes it work. So we did a couple visits, and we planted Dave Guernsey, Lieutenant Guernsey from the TRT team, and he was basically an on-site advisor and participant last time. So we'll probably do something very similar this time.
Yeah, I'm sure the feedback with Guernsey being involved was very positive. The OSHA emergency response PPE, there's more information in your CERC as part of the item number 12 in your agenda packet. If you want to review that, you're more than welcome to. I encourage you to. And as far as the LEPC chair coordinators meeting, obviously all of the different regions get together and they kind of go over some of the things that they've accomplished over the last quarter and or year. There's been some district reports. Charlene, the HMEP contract discussion with some of the LEPC. Do you want to touch on that a little bit?
Sure. So there was a presentation by the grant manager for the HMEP grant. Specifically, Jillian Smith, she's staffed with FDEM, and essentially she just went over a lot of details of what they're looking for the LEPC coordinators. It's really more of an administrative function. Although Chief, I recall that a project box came up for that. Would you like to discuss the project box?
So during the course of the presentation, there was a lot of, I guess, questions and concerns from not just our LEPC, but all the LEPCs. And really, through talking to a couple of the vendors, it was actually quite convenient that that meeting was at the symposium, right? So, in talking with a lot of the trusted vendors that were there, really the point was to try to make sure that the grant money serves the mission, right? And that the federal money, the state acts as a pass-through and a caretaker. And then obviously there needs to be checks and balances. However, there's a couple areas with the checks and balances and with the vendor list and the age of the list that we just want to correct to make sure that that money actually flows and doesn't get bottlenecked in one area or another, especially if it's a legitimate class that's gonna serve the first responders and serve the community in our area, right? So the intent was to find a productive way, what's the best way to make that happen? So we had some discussion on that. I brought up a couple points on the actual PIMSA list and, how it's constructed, why it's constructed, which basically comes from hazard vulnerability assessments, and it gets attached to the grant. I explained why vendors change the names of classes so they can keep students up and how the approval process works with the state. And basically, without trying to reinvent the wheel, hey, there's a process always that's already in place through the state. Why don't we marry the two and see what that looks like? So Chief Lamb, Task Force Chair Leader for CERC, agreed. And also the main driving force behind the Hazmat Symposium happened to agree. And he also agreed to start a project box for the task force. So we're going to be looking at all those action items to try to facilitate that money coming to the region. So basically, we're trying to make a play to make sure we get more training down here, and expedite it. So it'll benefit everybody in the state and won't be just, concentrated to this area. So I'm looking forward to see what happens in St. Augustine will be on our next meeting. So I'll have a good report next time around.
Yeah, it was very fortuitous that we had PIMSA, Chief Lamb from Training Task Force, plus, Kevin Guthrie and Dietrich all in the same room at the same time when this conversation started. So I think a lot of progress was made. I'm looking forward to see what we have next quarter, what kind of results. As far as the state commission, as far as the CERC meeting, we did present the Itavi Awards. That was the bulk of the meeting. So every LEPC awarded their nominees. We do have certificates of appreciation for some of our other members that were heavily involved in the lithium ion task force and with the lithium ion symposium at the State Fire Marshal's office. We're going to hope to get them here next meeting so we can present those appreciation awards to them. Some of the other items, we won't go too much in depth, but feel free to take out that list. There was a Lifetime Achievement Award for Mr. John Conkey, who's a legend in the industry. And there were some other presentations, a case study from Brevard County. They had a hazmat and hydrous release at the Fort Canaveral. And that spawned a lot of really great discussion about federalizing emergency response, cost recovery conversation, proper PPE funding. And then that, of course, led into the fact that Brevard County is a non-state funded hazmat team.
Correct.
And looking at the different funding elements, we're fortunate here in Broward County to have 4 teams operate as one, with our friends at Fort Lauderdale, Sunrise and a lot. And the fact that we're state funded and there's other teams doing just as much, if not more work without that state fund. So they really have to kind of scrape around and get creative to see how they can buy their PPE and fund their staffing and their pay incentives and whatever the case is. So that spawned a project box to the training task force as well. They're going to do an analysis of all of the hazmat teams throughout the county, of the state, and figure out not only which ones are funded, which ones are not, what is an accurate count of the sponsor teams. They're also going to do a geographical interface as well and find out where those teams are located. So are the teams properly funded? Should we increase funding? Do we have the ability to increase funding to staff more teams? Do we have too little teams? Do we have not enough teams? Do we have too many clustered in one area and not enough in others? So they're going to be doing a hazmat team analysis statewide, and CERC passed the motion to fund that. They're going to apply some personnel and some manpower. They expect it to be at about a year. We'll have a better idea of what the state as a whole looks like, including our area. I think our area is pretty solid. We're well covered. But I'll be curious to see how we stack up against some of the other more populated areas. And that was also piggybacked off with TRT. So a lot of times in the LEPC and the CERC world, hazmat gets separated from technical rescue, but we know in first responders, they're often joined. There's a lot of overlap both with personnel, with training, with equipment. So the TTF agreed to piggyback the TRT analysis on top of the hazmat analysis. So that information is going to be coming statewide. They expect it'll take about a year, hopefully less.
Do you think the analysis that they're gonna do in the state can be beneficial or it's gonna be detrimental for our area?
I think it's going to be extremely beneficial. Sorry, Chief, you want to talk on that? I think it's going to really identify a lot of needs, right? When's the last time that an analysis was done was?
Pre-COVID, so the year before COVID. So the only thing that I would add to that, so I would agree, I think it's very beneficial. My point was, in talking to Chief Strickland, was what is gonna be the scope of the capabilities, right? Because if we're just checking boxes saying we have, X amount of NDTs and we have X amount of rope and this equipment, that equipment, it's not too valuable. All right, but if we're gonna do a full scale capabilities and be honest about our personnel and who's responding and how that relates to either or not a regional ILA like we have here, then it's gonna be a lot more substantive, right? That along with the GIS and see where all the, the teams are clustered. So there's a couple ways that that's achieved, and I've seen both, I've seen several ways it's been done before it kind of got shut down with COVID. We've had years where the LEPC basically goes out and does the assessment and follows the state guidelines. And I've seen it done in conjunction with the state, and I've seen the state evaluator come out and do it and have the conversations. So it needs to be, in my opinion, the interviews, right? Interviews with personnel, not just with leadership, but interviews with leadership. Then looking at the contracts and of course, not just the inventory, but the state of inventory. So if it's done like that, which of course that's the most expensive and cumbersome way to do it, I think you're gonna get what you put into it. But if you're just looking for examples, the first thing that comes to my mind, because that's always the struggle, is the balance between hazmat and TRT, because down here, that's all the teams are doing both, right? So funding is always an issue, but if you just look at the Coast Guard pilot program, right, that's a perfect example of it's a hazmat drill that incorporates a lot of TRT equipment. And then you also add on some other special operations with some specialties with, being waterborne and, et cetera, et cetera. And the Brevard County incident, that also occurred in a port. And not only they're not a state funded team, and quite frankly, you're not gonna, support your team just on state funding, right? So I know, that Kevin Guthrie, Director Guthrie, did state to me last year that money was gonna increase. But we have to be creative. And the LEPC for us, down here, speaking for our 4 teams, we try to maximize the training money by doing a lot of in-house training and then supplementing training dollars with exercises and everything else. And it's been hugely beneficial. So I think it's gonna be a good thing. It's gonna be a really good thing. And just to say, it hasn't been done in at least 4 years, right? Probably 5. It's time to do it, to get a closer look. We all know how things change in the fire service. We say they stay the same, but we know that's not the truth.
Oh, no, what I'm saying is, different teams in different areas of the state have different volume of calls and different,
Yes.
I mean, here in.
Nobody's
Motagua, we
doing the
have-
volume that we're doing in the southeast region,
Right,
in this
yeah.
region. So really the only kind of the difference is when you get into the difference between Region 7 and Region 10, which Palm Beach is the factor there. But even if you take in Broward County, Miami-Dade and Monroe, we account for a lot of the technical rescue and hazmat release.
Absolutely. And to put it in perspective as far as timeline to get these results, because I think a lot of these results are going to, one, validate the work that we're doing, and then also validate the volume of work that we're doing. So, it could potentially increase our ability to get more funding and all that. There are 33 state-funded hazmat teams currently, and there are plenty more that are unfunded, and there are even more that are requesting state recognition as up-and-coming hazmat teams. I know for a fact, just in Broward County, there's 3 or 4 hazmat and or TRT teams that are trying to get off the ground in one way or another at some level. So if you have one person going to all 33 of those teams and you're meeting with personnel, and then the next day you're going over equipment, and the next day you're going over facility and apparatus, and then the next day you're going over training regimen, you're talking 33 weeks at minimum of travel and interview and gap analysis and capabilities assessments. So they are adding a second person. They used to send just one person. They're adding a second person so you can add the TRT component And that's still gonna be a minimum of 33 weeks worth of work. So they're expecting, up to about a year to gather that information properly and then process it and then be able to, present it to the state commission. So they're aiming for a specific, I believe it's the next April, CERC meeting to be able to give a full presentation on that, fully processed and all that. So, I'm sure the training task force and chief plan will give us updates along the way, my progress. All right, some of the other items that we have on there. There were, some other updates with some of their project box and working groups, financial status report. And, overall, if you guys have the opportunity to make some of those CERC meetings, they're very informational and, I highly encourage you guys to go. Anything else to add? From Training Task Force, LEPC and CERC? We're good. All right, moving on to the working group reports. All right, so as you guys are aware, or if you're not aware, we typically have two responsibilities for our working groups here in Region 10 for our LEPC. We have a training side and we have a planning side. Our working group has combined, all right, because a lot of people have a lot of good information to give on both sides of the coin there. And then we have a lot of motivated people who want to participate on both sides, right? So our single working group will report on both planning and training. And I encourage you guys, if you guys have something to offer, or you're just curious if you want to get involved, please contact me or contact Mr. Arlene and we'll get your name on the list, right? For the planning and training working group reports, we're still working with Chief Nugent for Region 7 Special Operations to do an anhydrous ammonia walkthrough at the Publix up in Deerfield, their large distribution center. They're typically very accommodating. It's fascinating to see what kind of system they have there. They have had releases in the past. There you go.
Yeah.
Even better.
So typically, we try to do it annually. And we did do it last year. We basically make a half day of it and we do it on all 3 shifts. So all 4 teams are invited and, you know, they feed us a lunch while we're there. And, it's a pretty impressive facility, up in Deerfield where they do the cold storage. So, there's actually a couple of different facilities, but the Publix is definitely the largest. So as far as anhydrous ammonia, you know, with the callback to what happened in Brevard, that's our largest target hazard. And there's obviously a lot of traffic. And they do have a response team. And one of the things that we hope to accomplish this time is just build on the relationships. We have a very good relationship with staff there, but I know they've got a lot of new leadership and some new first responders on their team. So it's really good for a meet and greet, and they're usually pretty organized and you know, meeting points and with their plans. So it's kind of a refresher for us on what they're going to be doing and you know, what we should expect, what their expectations are and vice versa.
Through the chair, Chief Russo, do you want to talk about the tie and their support also with
sure.
regard to TransCare at this time?
So we also with that group, and I was on the call along with Chief Nugent from Special Ops as the chair for the Fire Chiefs Association. We put out an interest with TransCare for the anhydrous ammonia drills that they offer for transportation. So basically we did the introductory meeting. They were looking for kind of what we were looking for. And we had a very productive meeting. We kind of set the scenario of what happens with our 4 teams, how they work as one team, how we have the relationship with Publix. So Publix is actually going to support the drill as well. And we're in the initial planning stages of doing, I know that they did it in North Florida with live product. So basically it'll be an anhydrous ammonia mitigation of a release, but it'll be somehow related to transportation. So it'll be most likely the scenario will be like an offloading scenario at the Publix plant, or we'll simulate something of that nature at one of the academies. So we took the first meeting and Charlene's been very helpful with getting some informational back and forth. And did we come up with a timeline, a very rough timeline? I know we were flexible.
Yeah, we just have 2 more comments to get back to
Oh,
them.
that's right. So
And then.
that's
yeah,
my job
on-
for
Put
today.
that back on your to-do list.
Yes. There you go.
Yeah, just 2 more comments and then we'll proceed with that. So as soon as we have more information, I think we'll have more for the next meeting as well. And if anything comes up between now and the next meeting, we'll push that information out to the members and to the stakeholders.
Excellent. Heat Shield 5, if you guys are familiar with that program, is, they are making progress and making a lot of headway. They're getting ready to launch their next exercise July 17th. Actually had the opportunity, thank you, Chief, for going to the Urban Area Security Initiative by Homeland Security, the UASI. So they gave us a lot of information over on that, so a little cross training here. Their updates are, they're looking to have the event hosted at Port Everglades by BSO, July 17th at 4 p.m. They are, if anybody's involved in that project, or if you're curious, they are meeting on March 12th to discuss the project scenario, and then they should be ready to go for July. They seem to be well organized and well on track. All right, and the UASI meeting was very enlightening in its own right.
I have a question, I'm sorry. So it's my understanding that they're gonna be, testing a family reunification or assistance center plan. So that's something that, you know, the college is very much interested in. Who do we reach out to kind of observe and?
Do you have that point of contact, Shannon?
I'll figure it out. Just, we can.
Yeah, we can find out for you. So would you like to participate or just for observation?
I could be a controller, player or observer.
Okay.
I think Mark
Yep.
Wendt is the point of contact.
I believe so. We'll
Yes,
see
sir.
if we can get his contact
Jamie's
information.
got
I can-
it.
I believe it.
Mark Wendt. I'll get it to.
We have the right people. Thank you, Natasha.
Thank you, Natasha. You
Thank
beat
you.
me to it.
Perfect.
It's supposed to be a radiological event, right? That's
Yeah.
what we're going with?
Yes. So if you guys have heard a lot about radiological over the last 2 years, put that in the back of your brain. So
There's always a reason.
I have a theory. We're doing a lot of radiological prep.
The SUSAR is ongoing. There's gonna be a SUSAR symposium in Orlando upcoming in November. And while we were in CERC and the Hazmat Symposium, the planning and training work group, we did have an informal meeting with those members that were in person at the Hazmat Symposium, as well as a few people online. We discussed a few things, including Shannon's HMERP draft update, some of the exercise programs, and then we sent over to the chair some approval for some of the training exercises that were being requested. So that is the report as far as that's concerned. And as far as on the training side, we've completed the FBI and the hazmat sampling class. There's a little bit of it's always a great exercise when we work with the FBI because there's a big difference between public safety sampling and collecting evidence, right? So we never want to destroy evidence while we do our sampling, and we also don't want to contaminate any evidence, get any kind of, one drop of sweat could add your DNA to, potential evidence. So it's always great for our first responders, or police, hazmat, and anybody from any other organization that happens to come across the scene before us. Then that awareness pays dividends, in my opinion. Right. There is I probably skipped ahead here. The alternative fuel training with the South Florida Clean Cities Coalition.
Alicia just stepped
She
out.
just
Can we
stepped
bump
out.
that and she
Perfect.
comes
She
back
saw- I
in?
was all excited to
Yeah,
say.
she actually
Here
has
we
something
go.
else to talk about during member comments too. So
Excellent. So we'll
I'll
table
get her
that
back.
and we'll give her some floor time as soon as she gets back.
We'll give her a big thank you too.
Exactly.
Real quick on your FBI,
Yes.
we have a new regional guy, or Scott is no longer
Yes.
with us, so now
Correct.
we've got Matt Abate. I don't know if everyone
Yes,
has become aware of that.
Yes, he was in Hollywood last week, right?
right. I forgot that Brian wasn't at that lunch, so Scott will be back for an FBA liaison, or
Okay.
potentially will be back. But he's got an 18-month assignment up in Washington to run a program up there. And then we also still have Danielle as the liaison as well.
Yeah, she's on here next, actually. And from what I gather, Matt is pulling double duty, so his attention span is gonna be limited, but he seems to be very helpful so far.
Yeah.
The Hazmat Symposium went off very, very well. Obviously, it's been separated from the Fire Rescue East Conference. That Fire Rescue East Conference is now the Florida Fire Conference hosted in Orlando and now separate from the Hazmat Symposium. They actually saw a 15% increase in their attendance for the Hazmat Symposium for their 10th year competition. It was a great event, and I think the separation of those two events allows a lot of people to go to both instead of having to pick and choose one at the same time. So Chief Lamb from Training Task Force, that's his project. He's had a lot of success. I highly encourage you guys to check it out. It's fascinating, I think. Going back to the FBI, as far as the exercise, Danielle from the FBI, she is looking for PIO support. If you can recommend anybody or have any contacts for her, she would appreciate that. And the FBI Miami and the Department of Energy, they're doing a tabletop exercise for the Community Unified Response to Radiological Incidents. That table exercise is going to be February 28th. So once again, another RAD component, another RAD exercise.
And that is at capacity now. She's not able to accommodate unless somebody cancels. That's full.
Good.
For the port?
For the FBI.
Curry.
The
Oh,
Curry.
the Curry tabletop.
Curry
Yeah.
tabletop. All right. The Port Tunnel Crisis is, looking for spring 2024. And then, we discussed the Transcare with the ammonia exercise. And Chief, do you want to speak about the FEMA National Exercise Program, the NEP webinar?
Basically, well, Charlene can speak on it as well too, but yesterday, I just looked at some of the work that for the application, we just submitted our draft. And this will go right into what Shannon is working on too. So basically to support some of the HMERP, the response plan that we're all supposed to be using that was, to be quite honest, a little cumbersome, dated, bulky, and needed to be revised, right? We should always be reevaluating and making sure that it's something, if we're gonna spend time on documents, that it's actually usable, right? So it's not a matter of if, it's gonna be a matter of when, and we know that South Florida is definitely prone to a lot of different type of incidents, whether it's natural causes a cascading effect or a threat. So it was very important to try to get a usable document. So the application with the NEP will basically support and validate the changes, that we're making. So what we want to do is always try to test your new product and get some, guidance moving forward. So that's what we're trying for. So the application is in. Darlene did it. I turned in some stuff at the end of the wire there yesterday. I didn't forget you, just had to get to you. And they look very good. I just had a couple minor suggestions to add on to it. And we'll see what happens. Do we have a timeline for? I thought I saw one, but I can't recall.
Right. So, they had their webinar, provide general information, office hours. I was able to have some, specific, follow-up questions. They have a process where they have a regional exercise officer reviews the draft application before they kind of like the gatekeeper to make sure you've got a quality product. And then, we did that yesterday. And so that has been transmitted. And then our deadline is March the 1st. For that, and they do not allow, this is a decision-based, correct, decision-based, tabletop exercise to, look at, the, vulnerabilities, analysis, et cetera, for the plan. And they don't do tabletop exercises for this particular, activity until after November the 4th. So it's in the works. It takes a while. I think they, have to figure out their staffing, how they're going to manage that budget, travel, et cetera. So, there'll be, 3, if we're, selected, there'll be 3, virtual meetings. And then the 4th one will be an in-person. They like to come down and meet the folks. So most likely that would be the last or the wrap-up meeting. And again, this all ties back to what Shannon is doing, trying to assist us with an update for the hazardous materials emergency response. Does that answer your question, Chief?
Perfect. Well said.
And the last item on the list, the Heat Shield 5, we've discussed those updates. And that is all for the training and exercise updates. Next on the agenda is the South Florida LEPC Coordinators Report. Ms. Charlene, back to you.
Okay, just the first thing, there's just some things that I've been working on. Of course, I continue to go to the special ops and TRT meetings. It's not on here, but I want to personally thank Chief Zahora for going with me to the Broward ECC meetings and serving as our emergency management subject matter expert. So that's a very supportive role for me, and I'm grateful to him for that. So thank you very much. Of course, we go to the State Emergency Response Commission with our team. I'm one of the team members for the symposium. Anybody that's listening that participated, George, you're in the room, so, I made a little tweak to some of the vouchers, so we're almost there with getting everybody in a package to get the full package over to our financial team, so everyone will get them, they do it at one time. We modified that a little bit to make life easier for everybody rather than piecemeal as we did last year, so that's, that should be done, hopefully, as long as I get the responses back from the folks that have vouchers, and we can package that and should be able to have that done maybe by next week with any luck. So otherwise, I'll be chirping in your inbox. Send me your goods, send me your goods. A special thanks to, Tatiana and to Terry over at Broward County. They're working with me. Actually, they just assisted me with getting the HMERP into the IPP, which was a requirement for the NEP. I sent, a request down to Troy, down in Miami-Dade, and to Corey down in, Corey Sushow down in Monroe. So we'll have that facilitated so that we're all the checks for Jimmy Bell when, the response comes back from NEP will be addressed. And so those are the, participation, my participation with those activities. And then I do trainings, just to, keep myself fresh and be able to more effectively communicate with the members and the stakeholders. So I did a recent ChemLock too, and it was really for facilities, but I want to get that perspective as well. So, and Junieth isn't with us today. Arana, she's one of our facility owners and operators, but I think she's gonna be really happy with the request that she's made a couple times now about getting more specific information in that HMERP for facility owners and operators. So Shannon's done a great job with addressing that. And just, there is an admin section coming up. I just have a couple items for that when we get there, so I'm gonna keep on moving down the agenda.
Right. Member comments.
Actually, this is a good time. Natasha, I spoke with her earlier. Natasha, there were two different items, the Miami-Dade Healthcare Preparedness Coalition, April 10th and 11th. And then the other is the statewide chemical surge virtual tabletop exercise with healthcare coalitions on March the 6th. Could you please address these for us?
Sure. So the Miami-Dade Symposium, there is actually a work day or workshop day before. So on April 9th, it begins. There was a TLO class. Unfortunately, it's full, but there is a stress first aid train the trainer class happening on the 9th as well. And then the 10th and 11th are the conference dates, and there is something for all disciplines. So if you are interested, if you can come in, there are discounts for Region 7 partners. Region 10, Region 7, whichever. We're still Region 7.
We're covered.
Yes, if you go to ndchpc.org, so Miami-Dade County Healthcare Preparedness Coalition.org, you can register there. For the chemical threat event exercise, they're actually changing it a little bit this year. This is a statewide exercise led by the Florida Department of Health Bureau of Labs. They're doing a game this year, which is something new. It's always been kind of the same tabletop. We don't know the agent yet. Last year it was jet fuel, but usually it's a category A agent. So that's going to happen on either the 9th or the 10th, the same days as the Miami-Dade Coalition now in April. But there will still be sample collection. Some of the hospitals might also choose to do a little bit more as far as recognition that there is a chemical event and then going through the process. They will do the sample collection and then ship it to one of the state labs for testing. So that's happening. We also have the Korean heat shield exercise that HELP is involved with. So we'll see probably a lot of you on Wednesday.
Funny how that works.
Funny how that works. Like I think I've seen a lot of these people every day this week.
How was RDSTF yesterday?
RDSTF, it was good. We actually had if some of you went to the Nova Cyber Symposium, we had the gentleman who did the AI presentation. So everyone walked out completely freaked out because realizing that you can't believe anything you see or hear anymore.
Everything's visible.
Everything is, it was crazy. Beyond that, a lot of we're still looking at OVS, the Operation Regional Sentry, on the back burner. It's not what it was, but it's not over yet. There was some discussion, at least on the health and medical side, with measles and kind of what's going on around there. If you've been looking at the news, you've had some excitement in the last 4 days or so. So we're really moving right along. Heat Shield is really going to be our next major event. The only other thing we discussed were the shush gap funds. The funding cycle is opening. The state meeting is next week. So we should have rules of engagement, and we know community resilience and election security are kind of way up there. But that's something that we'll bring up, and I was gonna say it later, but I'll just say it now because I'm already talking. That the project, UASI is going to do a training on how to do the actual template completion. And it looks like RDSTF is gonna do one as well.
Okay.
So when the projects come in, we'll actually be able to sit down and go through the whole project process instead of sending in the template and then, getting it sent back and forth. Yeah, so that's gonna happen this year, which should help. The coalitions are also opening up their project cycles, so for any members, you can also apply. That's opening up as well for funding for projects for next year. So there's a lot of money to be had, but we just need to be able to get those projects in, and with the shush gap, get it right, so that it doesn't become a full-time job.
And through the chair, I have one more. It just came in this morning from Rob Dietrich at Florida Division of Emergency Management. And all I have on it, I couldn't get the flyer to print, but I will send it out to the members and stakeholders. The date is March 13 and 14. This is a NRT Worker Safety and Health Conference. So I'll get that out for everybody to see. That comes down from FDEM, so I'll get that distributed.
Excellent. Welcome back, Ms. Alicia.
Thank you.
Would you like to discuss the alternative fuel training with the Clean Cities Coalition and the results of that?
Definitely. So in December, we hosted a tri-county first responder training on all the alternative fuels, which we covered propane, electric, hydrogen, and natural gas. We had 83 first responders in attendance, which I thought was really amazing. When I spoke with a lot of the participants, they thought that the training was really great and asked if we could do more. So I am actually in the process of trying to schedule to do another possibly 8-hour in-person training. I have to talk with Chief Russo because on this one, I want to do a little hands-on training and see if we can actually put a e-bike or e-scooter on fire and actually have our first responders respond to it on site.
I second that.
We're going one soon at the academy, so we'll talk.
So I'm definitely working with my stakeholders. There's a couple that are actually headquartered here for e-scooters or e-bikes, so they would be willing to participate and give us one of the vehicles. And then two, I was also speaking with Sheridan Technical College. They have a few vehicles there for their automotive program. And the dean also said that if we needed a vehicle, that he would actually give us a vehicle as well to work on at the training. So that
Be
was.
clear,
Yes.
he's not saying a vehicle to burn, right?
No, well, I can maneuver that. So that would be. But.
Vehicle anatomy and
That's usually what ends the conversation when I start talking about what we want to do.
Positive thing though that did come out recently is DOE actually just announced some funding opportunities specifically for first responders and electric vehicle training. So it's area of interest, area of interest number 2, and it's actually training on zero emission vehicle and infrastructure technologies. So right now I'm working with Ms. Charlene and of course, Chief Russo, Lieutenant Brown, to see if we want to apply for that grant. I will be honest, DOE is looking for regional projects. So if we do something like this, I think it would be in our best interest to include all the counties within our region, because I think we'll make the greatest impact, especially because of our population. And just to give you guys also another update, yesterday I had a stakeholder meeting for Central Florida. I'm the acting director right now of that coalition. And their first responders are also thinking about going on for that grant. So I'm working with the East Central Florida RPC, which they have an LEPC coordinator. So I'm gonna try to have some meetings with them and see if maybe we can make it an even bigger training and maybe do half the state from Central Florida all the way down to Key West. Because the maximum grant is $1 million. Total, I think it's like $5 million they're giving, and I think it's about 8 to 10 projects. So I think that if we had enough people, we actually can prove that we're impacting a greater portion of just one city or one county, I think we could get awarded. So that's what I'm working on right now.
Go big. Go
Yes.
big, Alicia.
You know, that's what we do here.
That's a perfect example of what Dietrich and Kevin Guthrie speak about at the state commission. The things that we're doing, not only on a local level, but on a regional, on a state level, very few states, if any, are accomplishing any of the things that we are doing, and it's because of our stakeholders and members here and projects like this one. We're making a big impact, not just here in our own community, but nationwide. And so I think, I'm looking forward to that project. That should be, if we can pull off a large regional exercise like that, that's gonna be, it's gonna be really, really beneficial.
And I was thinking Lieutenant Brown too, it helps us with, funding, so it's like, okay, we don't have to worry about like where we're gonna put the dollars from or where we're getting the training dollars, so I'm definitely going after this grant, so like I said, I'm just trying now to decide if we do it as like half the state, which I think would be our best bet, but either way, we'll definitely be scheduling meetings and I'll speak with you and Chief Russo.
Absolutely. Look forward to what you come up with.
Yes.
Any other member comments?
I didn't see anyone on.
Any online?
I don't know, anyone, nothing in the chat. I don't know if anyone. Does anyone online have any member comments before we close the comment period? You can unmute yourself.
You're allowed to congratulate Chief Russo this time.
Silence is golden.
Right, no news is good news someday.
Man, they're talking too much.
All right, and before we get to Shannon, I know she's chomping at the bit or chomping at the
Well, she
chainsaw.
was in outer space last time I saw her
Anybody,
there.
no, any other?
We're gonna go over the, no comments? Comments, all right, so, before we let, Shannon bust out the chainsaw, Ms. Charlene, if you'd like to go over any of administrative items that we may have, not already covered on item number 12.
Sure. As always, for anyone that
Or
comes
11.
in, just the general housekeeping, restrooms are straight across the hall and they're outside as well, but you gotta have the code for that. Always, we're trying to get you guys some water and coffee when you come in. That's always there for you. And then specifically for the administrative items, I try to set them up so that the item is either attached in the agenda package or it's a link to the information. I'm always gonna put a link for the CERC agendas because they're online. For folks that are onboarding our nominations, I'm gonna just perpetually keep, as part of the agenda package, the code of conduct and the Roberts rules, just as general information. So let's see, updated hazmat. Oh, okay, so, this came from the, FDEM and there are some links. This also came down from Rob Dietrich. And so he wanted to make sure we got this information out. Another, WMD, Weapons of Mass Destruction, training. So there's 3 different hyperlinks there that'll take you right to the training so you can register for those. EPA puts out their, CERC newsletters. Those are provided in the actual hard copies. I upload those and then put them in a document so that you can have them. FEMA produced its 22, it's kind of like your taxes, it's like the year prior, right? So, right, so that's there for you. It's not a typo. And then when Chief Rodriguez presented last time on his presentation, we had to convert it to PDF to send out in the package, but he had it in PowerPoint. So I went ahead and the package is the actual presentation, his PowerPoint. And so you can now click on those links that take you to the videos on the lithium ion items that he had wanted to share. Let's see, courtesy of EPA and FDM, there's a lithium ion battery training that was forwarded to us from FDEM and EPA. That information is now available. That's a hyperlink available for you. And then we talked about it earlier for the court crisis simulation. They had a meeting, this was back in November, and I provided the minutes from that meeting for you. Other than that, check my list. My list is complete. I have nothing additional for the admin items.
Excellent. So we're going to take this opportunity to reintroduce Ms. Shannon Maharaj, formerly of Lockheed Martin, now with Boeing. She has quite the resume and the chainsaw. And she's going to be assisting us, as we spoke earlier, with our emergency response plan. Shannon, first off, thank you very much. Secondly, welcome, and please enlighten us on where we're at and where we're going.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for dedicating some time for me to explain all things technical communication with this plan. So without further ado, I will bust out the chainsaw again. Let's see. Can you all see the presentation?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, great. At any point, just let me know if anything wonky happens with Zoom. So I'm the Hazardous Material Emergency Response Plan Assistant. So I've been helping Miss Charlene Burke since November kind of tackle this ginormous plan, make it concise, shorten it, make it usable. That's the main thing. We want this plan to be usable. And so this is the lovely chainsaw that Miss Burke and I look at all the time. So there is a working draft that I will send after this meeting. It is currently about 32 pages. The main document structure change is I've condensed the 14 sections into 6. So I've completely removed whatever is in like this pink color has been completely removed just because it's redundant. It's important to note that this plan is authored for experienced officials. There's still some information that, could be viewed as very basic, but I kept in mind it is written for experienced officials. So therefore, there's a lot of information that had to be cut, such as, the overview of counties, as lovely as the map was, I mean, it was just taking up a majority of the plan. So with these condensed sections, users, oops, sorry, did not mean to do that. So users can find information that they need, and writers, so whoever goes in and updates this, whether it's county personnel, first responders, or facility owners, they are now challenged with taking their information and essentially figuring out what is critical enough to put into this plan. And to kind of elaborate on my point, so this first section is in the new 2024 plan is dedicated to facility owners. I know that was a concern expressed several times throughout, discussing with Ms. Burke. So front matter refers to the table of contents, abbreviations, incident classifications, all of that. And then immediately it jumps into section 1, which is the facility owner information. So reporting timeframes, I believe 15 minutes for extreme hazardous incidents. You have to submit reports within 24 hours. All of that information was all the way on page 96 for the 2023 version, which means users had to flip through 95 pages to get to the information about reporting incidents. So what I've done is I've completely restructured it to where it's now listed in the first page of the actual plan. Content that may not necessarily fit into any of these 6 sections, it could be considered for Appendix A information. So this is what the plan is looking like at a glance. I would say it's 60% completed right now. By the time we have the next LEPC meeting, which I believe is May 15th, I will have a draft ready to go, ready to be submitted. I'm capping it at 60 pages, so 10 pages, roughly 10 pages per section, with an additional 10 for Appendix A material. And then, of course, I will provide guidelines and annexes that can be attached with the plan, but are not part of the plan itself. It is important to reiterate that future updates cannot exceed the 70-page total cap, because we do not want another instance where this document gets to 200 pages and then we have to condense it all over again. So if we could stick within that 70-page maximum, that would be fantastic. So as you can see, I've taken a snippet of what one of the pages looks like. It's for the facility owner section. So there are appropriate headers, there are page numbers, there are pre-built-in header styles that I've went ahead and formatted. Colors are all accessibility approved. I've tested them, I've put them through several calculators, so no issues with that. There is intentional use of white space, intentional use of indents, because if you do look at the 2023 version, it's indented to half a page. So essentially, when you're reading it, your eyes kind of jump from the margin all the way to half of the page. So I've went ahead and fixed that. So everything's intentional. Everything has enough space where your eyes are able to read everything and it looks easy to read. Footnotes are used. Footnotes are primarily used if something is referring to Title III or if there's a specific section. I didn't want to omit that information, so it's in a footnote. Those footnotes you could see here at the bottom right. footnotes are no longer than 2 sentences. It could be one long sentence, but no more than 2 sentences. They're footnotes. They are meant to enhance whatever is in the content of the plan. If you do look at the draft that I'm going to send Ms. Burke, highlighted and bold text are often accompanied with my comments. These are things that I've noticed that are discrepancies or just needs further clarification, as you'll see within the next slides of my presentation. As you can see, there are notes embedded within the document itself. This is critical information leading up to the procedures that might not necessarily fit into a paragraph or into a procedure with steps. The main section, so, sections 1, 2, 3, etc., always starts on a new page. So it's easy for county personnel to just locate their specific section versus trying to have to scroll, throughout the entire document to find what they're looking for. One thing I noticed with the 2023 plan, text will never be center justified in my plan. It's just harder to read the way that your eyes follow the words from left to right. Center justification makes that a little bit more difficult. So everything is left justified in this document here. So here are the concerns. Don't be alarmed at this table. I promise it's not terrible. One thing that I did notice as I was reading through the 2023 version is that for incident categories or categorizations, there are 2 different tables in 2 different parts of the document. So this first table here on the left, you can find it on pages 79 and 80. And then on the right, this is in the front matter, and it's right after, I believe, the abbreviations. So whatever is highlighted in red and blue, those are different information between the 2 tables. And that's alarming because if this is adopted from the Florida Comprehensive Emergency Management Plan for hazardous materials, why is one table more thorough, more detailed than the other? And I mean, for one, when you've got terms like minor, moderate, severe, major, that's how they're referred to in the plan. But if you look at the table on pages 79 and 80, they're not referred to as minor, moderate, severe, or major for their classification. So I thought that was something to bring to your attention. Those are things that I'm looking for as I go through. This was just alarming because this is how you start your classification, start your reports, everything when an incident happens. So now both versions are consolidated into one, and it sits right in the front of the new plan. So whoever's reading through it, it combines essentially the most important information from both into one table. Additional concerns, as you can see on the left, these are the comments that you might encounter when you look at my draft. So a lot of the things I've noticed are very vague in how they're described. So the primary issue is indeed ambiguity. It is restructured for experienced professionals. However, if we could quantify or identify instances where the word some is used, ultimately the plan will be much more easier to navigate. So here, kind of like to the center of the slide, there is an example that I've taken straight from the 2023 plan. And as you can read, it provides great information, about protective equipment. Sometimes it can be ineffective. Okay, so what to expect when it is ineffective? You get to the bottom and it's like, okay, so you see vinyl rubber acid suits will be required. Okay, so corrosive atmospheres, some type of poisons. What kind of poisons, So if we could find that information, and it doesn't have to be extensive, if it could just be one thing to quantify this, that would be great. I mean, I was reading it and I tried to imagine myself in that situation. I would want to know what type of poisons could, render my gear ineffective. And another issue that I've encountered is repeated information. I'm sure that everyone is well aware of the length of this document. Sometimes things do get repeated across, different county information. An example of this would be to the right, where it says the ranking fire officer on scene will act as the incident commander. perfect, great, that could be cut into a sentence, done. But then it goes a couple sections below that. There's a step listed as in Broward County, the IC will normally be a ranking fire department officer. So essentially the same information kind of stated in different parts. So I've went ahead and consolidated that as well. So it sits nicely in just, one short paragraph. Okay, we know who the typical fire officer will be for the IC, done deal. I think those were my major concerns. I do want to reiterate this plan cannot exceed 70 pages. In fact, it looks like it might be shorter than what I'm proposing based off of what I have left to look at. But I will provide guidelines for county personnel, first responders, emergency management personnel, whoever is looking at this for future updates. I will provide guidelines on how to keep it short and how to keep it within this cap that I have. And I will be here for the foreseeable future. So Ms. Burke and I offered to help, look at the plan in 2025, 2026, et cetera, whenever this comes back into topic again. I'm happy to kind of assist as, the document specialist. So you all will have me for the foreseeable future, no matter where I end up.
You're
So yeah, just to close off this presentation, the next steps. So I'm going to request your feedback on what I have drafted so far. And while this draft is in review, I will resume completing re-entry and decontamination information, along with the supplemental documents that I mentioned, guidelines on how to update this, guidelines on how to use the HMERP document. I know that I am trying to mimic it very similar to the ERG plan. So that is my goal. So I will have a nice little how-to guide on how to use the plan. I will look into converting content into visual elements, such as flowcharts. Tables are already in there, bullet points are good. And then eventually this will be into a good working document to get CERC approval by the time the next LEPC meeting comes around.
Excellent. Thank you for all your hard work and expertise. Definitely needed to be done, and it sounds like you're really going above and beyond.
I'm happy to help. I can see, how grateful everyone is here, and it keeps propelling me to want to continue tackling this sort of document. I know it can be difficult just because of the sheer volume of information, but I'm here. Like I told Ms. Burke, I'm here. I'm in it for the long run. So any questions, you can contact me through email. I've indicated it here in the slide. And I will send this out for Ms. Burke, so you all will have this to look at to reference.
Excellent.
Through the chair, there was in the chat, Rudy was asking if we were gonna make this available. So Shannon and I are gonna have a debrief this afternoon, and I will get this out. This will come out as soon as possible, so that you all have a chance to look at it before we reconvene. And then we'll get some comments and input from our normal partners on this. So it'll go out to all the LEPC members, to the stakeholders, but then also for our OEMs that we work with on pulling this together. So that will be coming out.
Good deal.
Excellent. Shannon, thank you very much. As Chief Russo said, I think your expertise and your effort is truly invaluable. I definitely appreciate it. And I think the work that we're doing with HMERP truly goes towards the mission of our LEPC, especially with the representation of the facility owners and cleaning up some of the language and making that document an actual usable document. I think it's going to be a big difference maker going forward. Next on the list, upcoming meetings. May 15th is our next LEPC meeting. All right, it will be hybrid, preferably in person, if you want to come and hang out with us. We're not too terrible people.
I'll be in Atlanta still. I'll be zooming.
Excellent.
I already know. I'm gonna.
The next CERC TTF quarterly meeting is April 11th and 12th in St. Augustine. And included with that will be obviously training task force, the local emergency planning commission meetings, and the CERC meeting as well. The training and planning working group we will schedule to be determined. We're going to be looking at starting the beginning of the planning stages for our annual exercise. Oscar Rodriguez is the TTF representative who heads up the working groups, and he is exploring some options that we have with Port Everglades. So the working group will get together, and we welcome anybody who wants to jump onto those working groups. If you have ideas or you just want to kind of jump in and listen, we will schedule one of those informally in the near future. That is all I have. Anybody else? Chief?
There is an expo coming up early next month, the Disaster Expo down in Miami. I'm sure everybody's nodding their head, so I'm not telling anybody any news. Probably see half of you guys there. I think I'm only going down there for a day for the 7th, so yeah, got some obligations on the 6th, but that's usually a lot of good vendors and planning and everything down there. It's 6 and 7, I thought.
It's Wednesday and Thursday, right?
Yeah, 6 and 7.
Yeah.
I just know like I'm going on the 6th. I just remember like that.
See, you go to 6, I'll go to 7.
There you go. Good luck. We're all counting you.
Divide and conquer.
Yep.
Yeah, other than that, just I have a lot of appreciation, and I think you guys have all noticed, if you've been around this LEPC for a long time, that we've got a lot of momentum here. There's a lot of good things happening, and I really appreciate, and I think, it's kind of contagious. The momentum just keeps growing, and as far as like with the work that Alicia's done and is doing, really a lot of that is the collaboration with the Fire Chiefs Association and a couple of the key players. And I know Natasha's involved in a lot of different stuff. So there's a lot of overlap, and I think it benefits everybody. Right. And for example, I was on the phone yesterday with Brian Vassar from the EPA, and then some of the private vendors, and Oscar's been talking to Miami about the event that they had down there that wasn't caused by an EV, but it severely affected that parking structure. That's probably going to have to get torn down. So there's a lot of tie-ins that are going back and forth and information sharing. And, Brian makes that clearinghouse available with all the Google Docs. I mean, we're literally, it's us, New York and San Diego. We're at the forefront in the country of the EV research and evaluation and getting the information. My goal is to have saturation for all the first responders when they roll up on scene, and we're nowhere near it. They're going to be getting bored of it, and that's really the goal, is to be not complacent, but to be so, kind of like you're doing your ACLS renewals. But the reason why is because there are so many different hazards, right? And we have to be careful to not spin the message that EVs and lithium ion is bad and the technology is not good. So, you don't want to get yourself into a jam, and, definitely has a lot of uses, and we benefit for the main part. But the other big segment here is trying to get the public informed. So I hit a couple roadblocks politically with the Take Charge campaign, but nothing that we can't get over. And we are doing it in Hollywood, and I'm hoping to get some more engagement with that. But that's just one aspect, and I just really appreciate all the hard work everybody's been putting in, and let's keep the ball rolling. That's it. That's all I got.
Motion to adjourn.
No online comments, last minute online?
You didn't
Just a
forget
few
the
people
outline.
Definitely
Don't touch my
said
couch.
congratulations.
I'm
Chief.
not
And do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
By Ms. Georgie, second by Zahora. All in favor? Opposed? Thank you very much.
Oh, you got one more.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.